Right, that's enough from me. So I'm going to ask James to start off, and also James, if you maybe give a welcome. So thank you very much for hosting us today.
No problem, thanks Neil. And good afternoon everyone, and welcome to Nationwide's Threadneedle Street office. This is not our swanky City of London HQ, it is an office site. Our HQ is proudly in Swindon, which is where the Building Society originates, and hopefully also says something about us as an organisation, that we are rooted in the communities we've always served, and that we are focused on delivering for our customers. I'm delighted to be here to talk to you a bit about something that sits at the heart of what we do as Nationwide, and that's our social purpose and our social impact work. At Nationwide, social impact work isn't treated as a CSR campaign or a PR stunt. It's central to our business blueprint. As a building society, Nationwide's based around the idea of becoming a modern mutual, people coming together to support one another. This founding principle continues to guide us today, shaping how we serve our customers, how we work with partners, and how we contribute to society. As said, our social purpose is central to our work, and one of our key goals is to become a beacon for mutual good. It's embedded in our business structures and our culture, and drives us to focus our impact on the issues that matter most to our customers. As a starting point, Nationwide gives 1% of its pre-tax profits every year to charity. This is divided between our own charitable programmes and the Nationwide Foundation, which is charity separate from but funded by Nationwide. We think this shows our continued commitment to our customers, and that as an organisation we've got a significant and ongoing contribution to make to our charitable causes. As a customer-focused business with a mission of banking but fairer, more rewarding, and for the good of society, we're here to provide financial services and make a meaningful difference in people's lives. That means designing products, propositions that meet real needs, creating experiences that feel personal and inclusive, and delivering the best customer service. We also use our voice to push for fairer practices in banking and influence policy that supports people and places. It stretches beyond our customers to support the communities they live in. We believe that financial institutions should be a force for good, and we're proud to lead by example. That's why you'll see us focusing our mortgage lending on first-time buyers, keeping our branches open, and helping tackle fraud. Our social impact work has always sat alongside our business delivery as a priority. In 2024, we launched Nationwide Fairer Futures, our new social impact strategy designed to tackle some of the most pressing challenges facing society today. We're focusing in on 4 key areas where we believe we can make a real difference: youth homelessness, working with Centrepoint; families living in poverty, working with Action for Children; and then looking at 2 medical issues: the challenges faced by those affected by dementia and those impacted by cancer, working in partnership with Dementia UK and the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity. These aren't abstract issues. They affect our customers, our colleagues, and our communities. Life can deal people an unfair hand at any time, and we see that every day in our branches and contact centres. Through our partnerships, we fund transformation programmes with each other, with each charity designed to create fairer futures for people across the UK. In our first year, we've helped more than 65,000 people through these programmes. This year, we'll help even more. We see partnership as key in this process. We know we can't do this work alone, and that's why we work hand in hand with the charities to bring that deep expertise, lived experience, and trusted relationships. These partnerships are practical and purposeful. They allow us to reach people we couldn't reach on our own, and to deliver support that's tailored, timely, and transformative. Partnerships look beyond fundraising to those practical steps Nationwide can take to help our charity partners deliver their goals. A key example of this is working with Dementia UK to provide access to their specialist Admiral nurses in our branches. This service is available to everyone, and not just Nationwide customers, but anyone who's impacted by dementia. We also lend our size and scale to support our charities' campaigns. For example, we're working quite closely with Centrepoint at the moment on their Make Work Pay campaign, which will remove a quirk in the benefit system, which means young people in supported accommodation actually start to become financially worse off as they work more, due to how that increased salary interacts with their benefit payments. We seek to learn from our partners about what works, what's needed, and how we can be better. It's a genuine 2-way relationship built on the shared values of trust and mutual respect. We hope that this work helps align closely with the government's missions. The work covers tackling youth homelessness, reducing family poverty, improving health outcomes, and driving sustainability. One of the advantages we find from working closely with the charities is that it enables us to support people beyond the reach of our products. So not everyone can come to Nationwide and get a mortgage or have the spare finances to save in a savings account. So this enables us to take that sort of more holistic view. So working with Centrepoint enables us to understand those issues of youth homelessness. And working with Dementia UK and the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity means we're able to reach beyond financial issues to help our customers with those wider life challenges. This also then enables us to engage government on a wider range of issues beyond talking about things like current accounts and ISAs. We hope this can shape government's actions so it supports people with different needs and in different circumstances, making our inputs to their work much more effective. We believe that business, civil society and government must work together to create lasting change. Nationwide is ready to play its part, not just as a financial institution, but as a trusted partner in building a fairer, more resilient society. For Nationwide, this social purpose isn't a nice to have, it's a core part of what we do. And we're proud that part of our role is of a modern mutual, is how we use our size and scale to shape a better future. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Thank you very much, James. A comprehensive set out in terms of how you, in terms of your DNA and business ethos, how this works with not just delivering business value and value to your customers, but also the connection with the ecosystem around civil society. Becky, how does that all sound to you?
Thank you very much.
Work you're doing.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm the Director for Civil Society and Youth at DCMS, which is the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. And despite the fact that it doesn't have civil society in the title, we are the lead department for civil society within government. However, of course, the reach of civil society is across the whole of government. And what I don't seek to do is to intervene in the fantastic relationships that exist across all parts of the state with all parts of civil society. But what we are trying to do is make those stronger, better and even more productive than they have been. So I'll say a bit about how we've been doing that. It's quite symbolic for me to be sitting on a panel with Thomas because nearly a year ago, he and I sat on a panel together at an event organised by the civil service. It was we have a policy making festival every autumn, and we sat together on a panel and talked about this subject, but in a completely different environment. Yeah. So we had a new government. We knew the incoming government was very keen on working in this way because they'd set out their stall very clearly the previous January before the election. But we were in the early weeks of a new government. We didn't know exactly how that was going to work. So we talked in some sort of generalities about how to do it. But what we didn't have was the kind of the framework, if you like. And nor really did we have the strong political backing. Fast forward nearly a year, and it feels to me like we're in a completely different world. And it's lovely to be sitting back on a panel with Thomas talking about how far we've all come together. And it does feel like the difference that we have made in the interim is really real and tangible. And that makes me very excited about what we can do in the future. So last October, government announced our intention to co-produce a civil society covenant. We would do it through engagement and collaboration, and it would be genuinely co-produced with the sector. We worked with some key partners, including some of whom are in the audience today, the National Council for Voluntary Organisations, NCVO, and the Association of Chief Executives of Voluntary Organisations, AKIVO, as key partners. But what we wanted to do was go out and engage with the entire diversity and breadth of the civil society sector, which is, of course, absolutely huge and multifaceted. Together, we engaged over 1,200 organisations, as well as Whitehall departments, local authorities and regional and devolved governments. And what we had was a very open and often very frank and sometimes very crunchy conversation about what looks good, but what should and could be much better. And the result of that, very symbolically, about a month ago, in fact, exactly a month ago, at the Science Museum, the Prime Minister hosted a summit with 250 attendees, including representatives from over 200 voluntary sector organisations. There were 10 government ministers there, including several cabinet ministers, and representatives from central, local and devolved governments. So the full range of state, and interesting, let's come to the business angle as we open up our discussion, but this was very much about the state and civil society. So the Prime Minister gave a keynote address in which he set out the terms of engagement for what he wanted from this partnership. He spoke about national renewal requiring everybody to play a part. He promised civil society a home at the heart of government. His exact words were that the door of number 10 is now wide open to you. And for people in the charity sector, they will know quite how different an approach that is, coming from the very, very top of government. By way of illustration, he gave some examples of what is already, of what that kind of partnership already looks like. He announced the national rollout, backed by an additional £53 million of the DRIVE partnership, which is a domestic violence tackling initiative that has been developed by a coalition of civil society organisations, but is now being picked up and amplified and rolled out nationally by government. And he described this as a blueprint of a brand new way of working. He also announced at the same time Diagnosis Connect, which is another way of looking at that partnership, which is a system linking newly diagnosed NHS patients with specialist charities in their particular area of diagnosis. And the words that he used were, these initiatives that we are announcing today, they came from you, not us. We put them into something that works in partnership. And that is how he sees that partnership really working, which is the expertise, the on the ground, the kind of the unique reach and understanding and lived experience of civil society organisations working in partnership with the kind of amplification that the state can provide. The rest of the summit passed in a bit of a blur. The rest of them, people who were there described it as the atmosphere of a wedding, which was interesting. A couple of people said that. We had multiple panel discussions with multiple cabinet members, including Wes Streeting, Bridget Phillipson, Lisa Nandy, who is my Secretary of State for Culture, but also, of course, lead around the cabinet table for civil society. We had Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. We had Georgia Gould, who's the Cabinet Office Minister responsible for public service reform. And we had Jess Phillips, who, of course, is a Home Office Minister with a very, very deep and long-standing commitment to tackling domestic violence. And we had tons of civil society leaders and local government and mayoral representatives, including in the form of Tracy Babin, the Mayor of West Yorkshire. And what was really striking about that day was that the quality and the depth of the conversation was so meaningful. Actually, it was not about kind of platitudes and one words. It started to dive into some real detail. And we themed the panels around the government missions, because to my mind, those are really helpful kind of umbrellas under which people can come together in a way that is not always overtly political, but that really looks at themes about changing, the kind of change that a lot of people want to see in society. The panel chaired by the Secretary looked at the impact economy, which is bringing private funding into social change. And like I say, it was a very warm and upbeat and excited mood on the day. It was also very pragmatic. It was realistic. And of course, it's one day, right? It was one day. But what it signalled is something really significant, I think. And you don't get that many cabinet ministers all pitching up in the same room at the same time, more or less. Unless they're really serious about it. And that is now our job as officials and your job in partnership to really bring that alive and to really run with it. What it's serious about is a different way of working that means genuine partnership. It means bringing civil society into the heart of both policy making and delivery, and holding us in the state to account for where we could and should be doing things better, more meaningfully, and better in connection with the people whom we are all here to serve. The Civil Society Covenant was launched that day. I mean, we talk a lot about the Civil Society Covenant. It's a bit of a talisman. It's a document. It's an indication of a way of working, and it's the starting point. So we've got a GovUK digital platform that we will keep updating, which has got resources, great examples of ways of working, and great examples of practice already happening, case studies, links to guidance. Because of course, for a lot of people, this is not a new way of working. A lot of this is happening fantastically already, but for a lot of people, it is a different way of thinking about things. And it's been very interesting over the last few months for me as I try to encourage my Whitehall colleagues to work in a different way. For some people, it comes very instinctively, and for some people, it takes a bit more effort. And that's the tanker that we're trying to turn. A few of the practical things we're doing, and then I'll stop. We've got a joint civil society covenant council, which will be co-chaired by my Secretary of State or my civil society minister and a civil society leader, as a very symbolic, co-creation. And what that will do is chair a range of task and finish groups, work streams that will look at specific policy issues that we want to tackle together. And those will be decided in partnership between government and civil society. We'll be launching a local covenant partnerships programme to help do this at a local level, which is, of course, where a lot of the magic either happens or needs to happen, and particularly in terms of helping local authorities. And it won't come as news to anyone that local authorities have, not drowning in resources right now, but help them work as well as they possibly can with their local BCSEs. We have, as I said, we have a long-term commitment to drive that culture change in Whitehall and in local government, and we will be driving forward a mutual exchange and learning programme to build capacity and to build understanding. So, for example, secondments between sectors, those sorts of things are what we're looking at. We've also looked at the grants. We're also working with the grants and commercial function in Cabinet Office, because obviously that's huge for the sector, to make sure that their policies and guidance are in line with the principles to which we're working. And finally, the Treasury, the hardest nut to crack. We have a commitment to a new civil society forum, which will allow civil society voices direct access to Treasury counterparts. Now, I'm not promising that they're going to run everything by you before they put it in the budget, but it is definitely a step forward in terms of just building that understanding of each other's priorities and objectives, and ensuring that we are working as closely together as we possibly can. So I'll stop there. I mean, I'm really excited about this, as you can probably tell. It feels very powerful. It feels like it has a huge potential to seize a moment and to genuinely serve the people of this country better in a powerful partnership way, and I'd be really interested to hear people's thoughts, and particularly as I say, we've been very concentrated on the sort of state and civil society aspects of this, but how we bring in the business aspects into that three-way partnership to make it even more powerful.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Becky. So, how's all this feeling to you, Tom?
Great, and if I may be immodest, I'd like to open really actually with thanks. Thanks to WIG and its leadership for talking about collaboration, which I think is perhaps the most important thing that we have to do. And thanks indeed to Nationwide for, I think, what is a pioneering company in the way in which it is engaged in social issues, supporting shelter, I think, for 25 years. But that level of commitment to tackling social change and being in there for long haul is remarkable. And the covenant, which is extraordinary. And if I think about when I've been working for a little while, but I was around when the compact was a previous government thing, and like the covenant, the compact doesn't have any legislative power, but it is a firm encouragement to all government bodies to collaborate, and it did have an impact in the way in which local and regional and devolved governments interacted with charities for the benefit of society. So I think to have another of those moments is brilliant. And I appreciate what you're saying, which is this is the starting line. And it's great to hear about the engagement with the Treasury, because I think in a country that is so straitened in its finances, this government, perhaps more than most previously, is a government led having to rightly be led by Treasury decisions. So that engagement there is really, really fantastic. So thank you. A lot of you won't know what or who Turn to Us is, so I'm very quickly just explain. We are 130 years old nearly, and we want everyone in the UK to have financial security so that they can thrive. They're doing the thriving. And Turn to Us is here to support those of us facing the financial shocks that all of us will have, to stop them turning into financial crisis, and to kind of together challenge the systems and the perceptions that cause financial insecurity. There's a kind of discourse that people are poor because it's their fault. That is very rarely the truth. There are powerful systemic forces that create financial insecurity for nearly 22% of our population, and you're more likely to be experiencing financial insecurity if you're black, if you're brown, if you're disabled, if you're from the LGBT community. So we can see the systemic nature of it in who is affected. What Turn to Us does is that we maximise people's income by direct grants. We'd make a grant to you directly in the face of financial shock. We work in local partnerships and local communities, designing programs to build the financial security of the local community, because that tackles all the other things that create financial insecurity in the first place, whether that's lack of an access to a functioning market, to childcare, to transport, to good work. And we also have a benefit calculator, a tool that helps you with personal dependence payments applications, and a tool that helps you find other grants. The benefit calculator last year supported 3 million people who used it, and they resulted in £1.2 billion worth of benefits that wouldn't have been claimed otherwise. Turn to Us almost exclusively only ever works in partnership. And I don't know of anyone who thinks that all is as good as it can be in the UK. I'm sure many of us are proud of the UK, but we all want better, whether that's in industry, whether that's around living standards, transport, our health system. For things to be better, we've got to change the systems in which we work and live, and you can't change systems without collaboration. And as we think about collaboration, I'd like us to start in a kind of positive mindset to think about so much on which we can already build. If you think about the role of civil society in delivery in prisons and probation, or in education, or in local hospitals, or in the NHS, or a third of the COVID vaccinations were done by, maybe it might be more than a third, but a third of the COVID vaccinations were done by volunteers organised by charities. Charities and civil society are part and parcel of our society. And if people can get involved in that, and if people get supported by charities along with companies and along with government, then people can thrive. That supports citizen engagement in society and the economy, and little else can uphold democracy so powerfully. Government, rightly in its covenant, is interested in human-centred design of our country's services, and charities are particularly well placed through their deep connections with those for whom our organisations exist to bring lived experience to the heart of all that work design in government, in companies, and certainly in our own work. And it's great to see that acknowledgement in the cover. Thank you. And when I think about the government's missions and targets, and I'm going to pick out two: kick-starting economic growth and the importance of raising living standards as a target, and then breaking down barriers to opportunity, giving children the best start in life. Turn to Us's work has very strong associations with both of those. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why collaboration is important. If we just think about poverty for the moment, we have to understand that poverty, or financial insecurity, is a wicked and complex problem that is connected to other wicked and complex problems like housing precarity, lack of access to good healthcare, a lack of access to a functioning market. Poor people will pay more for nearly everything, to show you how the markets do not work for poor people. So wicked and complex problems being connected to other wicked and complex problems. It is only possible to tackle the financial insecurity of a family or a person, or even the systems that keep that in place, together with other organisations. No organisation can achieve that by itself, and no company, no government department, no local clinic should ever think that it can do that. It has to collaborate, including with people with lived expertise. And so I often think about the UK as made up of kind of a three-legged stool of civil society, commerce, and government. And you can only really make real change if all three are collaborating together. I'm going to finish on this kind of last point, being conscious of time. Financial insecurity is kept in place in large part by stigma. Poor people are poor because of their own actions, which is very rarely true. And that prejudice about stigma spreads to the way in which we think about government operating or companies operating. And you can see this in our benefit system. So there's quite a lot of prejudice around the benefit system. But if you think about pensions, there isn't so much pension, but yeah, that's a good benefit. Working age benefit, bad benefits. families that have too many children, they shouldn't get benefits. And there's this idea that the 2-child limit prevents people from having children that they can't afford. That's not really who's claiming those benefits. There may be a larger family of 3 or 4 or more children, and they're fine until they lose a job or experience disablement or ill health, and suddenly all of those children are relying on benefits for 2 children, and the whole of the family is in poverty. So those stigmas and prejudices that we can buy into very, very subconsciously can affect the way we think about the way in which government operates. So we've got to be tackling kind of mental models in society and beliefs in order for government to be able to make changes that stick instead of being changed administration by administration. So I just kind of want to make a point about how critically essential collaboration is and how complicated it is.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.